instrumentalist. You probably see me with a guitar in my hand. I hail from Austin, Texas, and I don't know if I said I do indie rock music. That's my thing, and yeah, that's me.
Perfect. Cat?
I'm Cat, Dahlia. I'm from Miami, living in LA, indie artist. I do like Latin, R&B, Afrobeat, pop stuff.
So, Emi?
Hi, my name is Emi Secrest. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee, but I've been living in LA for 11 years, and I do alternative soul R&B.
Ooh. And Sam, last but not least.
What's going on, y'all? My name is Samuel Green. I'm from Texas, but I currently live in LA, and I sing R&B and pop. And my inspiration, I would have to say, is my mom. She inspired me to start music, so that's my inspiration.
Cool. So I want to start this conversation off by really talking about the journey of each of you as an artist. And Sam, we'll start with you, right? When you began sort of this career as a singer-songwriter, it was actually when you were 7 and in church. So talk to us how you went from singing in the church with your family to saying, this is going to be the career for the rest of my life.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, my mom, she would always have solos at church. So once seeing her, like they say nowadays, once seeing her in her bag, I just knew, like, that's where I wanted to be. I wanted to be on that stage. I wanted to be behind that mic. So like I said, I started in church. I did start in a gospel group based out of Dallas. And then just my love just grew from there. Moved to Houston because I auditioned for a boy R&B male group and got that auditioned, got in that band, was in that band for about 1.5 years. And got out of that, obviously broke up. So I became a solo artist early 2016 and haven't turned back since. And I mean, it's been an amazing ride since then.
Yeah. And Zach, you sort of had a not dissimilar journey, but talk to us about sort of how when you first found out, one, that you were musically talented and then wanted to turn that into a career.
Yeah, I was definitely inspired early on by my mom as well. She was a great singer and started exposing me to all sorts of music as a little kid. And I moved to Houston as well. Sam, I know you said, yeah, you mentioned you're from there. And that's when I started in middle school, getting out and playing in bands, just experimenting and doing shows around bars and clubs. That was my intro into music. Yeah, that was my beginning.
Thank you. Kat, tell us a little bit about sort of when you knew that you were musically talented and wanted to pursue this as a career.
So I've been singing since I was a little girl. I was just always obsessed with music. I came from a decently musical family, but not really. They loved like salsa, merengue, and it's part of the culture, the Cuban culture, but was definitely like took it a little far myself. And I moved to New York in 2012. I started like recording an EP. I ended up getting signed. So I was at Epic Records for 5 years, signed by Sylvia Rohn and under LA Reid. And so I had that whole like non-indie experience. Coming back to being indie like 2.5 years ago, and I've been indie ever since. And I took a lot of knowledge from there, from like being in the major label to now. And yeah, that's where I'm currently at now. What are my inspirations? All types of different artists, a lot of young, up and coming, random, very creative people, the ones that don't have the awards, inspired by. And yeah, my mom too. I love my mom.
And I want to come back to that conversation around sort of being a part of Epic and then choosing to go the indie route. I think that is something that we want to capture in this conversation. But before we get to that, Emi, talk to us about, you have an interesting journey growing up also, I believe, singing at a very young age, and then going into university and singing, and then moving to Los Angeles. Talk to us about that journey when you knew so music was going to be your life.
Yeah, I think the earliest video that my parents have of me singing is, I think, 3 years old. So I had like my first gig, like my first paid gig when I was like 5. And then in Memphis, I was singing on Bill Street, which is like a really famous, so Memphis is so rich in music and history from Stax, just back in the day. So a lot of it's just like they breathe in the water. It's something good. Like you can go on every corner and hear a girl or a guy in Memphis that can sing down. So you're just surrounded by that. So when I came to LA, I was only 20. I got a full scholarship to the University of Memphis through vocal music, and I left my senior year because I just really felt in my heart that school was not going to really prepare me for my personal journey. I'm not down in school, but for me, because I didn't waste anyone's money, you know, my parents they totally supported me and, you know, helped me move out here. And I struggled. I was like so broke the first year. And then I started singing background for Macy Gray. So I went to 40 countries with her, toured, and she changed my life. She let me open for 2 of her world tours. And she really like let me see that you can really create your own lane. You know, this lady is going to markets and countries that artists that have millions of followers are not going to, and she made one hit 20 years ago and she's still touring. So I needed to see that. I needed to know that there was another way other than the way for you to break and do well in the industry. So she's definitely a huge inspiration for sure.
I want to keep on that. We talked about it earlier, but this idea of artists being in Los Angeles, and Los Angeles being sort of the goal and the destination. And sort of, I want to say the majority, if not everyone on this call, has made that move from somewhere to Los Angeles. I mean, you coming from Tennessee, Sam, you going from Missouri to Texas, and Zach, sort of, I've spent time in Los Angeles, but have chosen to sort of settle down in Austin, Texas. Sam, focusing on you, what was the move, or what was the conversation with yourself saying that I need to be in Los Angeles if I want to make it as an artist?
So I was actually working with a label out here and a team. So the conversation was we met as a collective. The team I was working with in Houston, we met. Even I had my parents, the team here in LA. They were going to sign me. Got to working. And at the end of the story, nothing happened. So that was the initial reason I moved out here. I was coming back and forth for at least 3 years, because after the group broke up, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna focus on me. I mean, this is what I want to do. This is what I was called to do. This is what I was created to do. So let's get this thing popping. So, I mean, it was like balls to the wall. Sorry if I could say that. But yeah, so I mean, that was the initial reason I came out here. But honestly, it was the best decision I've made. I did come out here on faith. And I mean, I don't look back, because like I said, it was the best decision I've made. I've had some amazing experiences, and I've only been here 1.5 years. And I've experienced so many things, a long list of things, and I would take anything back. So,
Kat, I want to continue the question with you as well, right? You released one of your first singles in 2013, and I know you being from Miami, share with our participants sort of your journey or your experience in LA, and if you feel if it's necessary for an artist to be successful, they need to be in Los Angeles.
I hear a lot of more people moving out of LA, and I think it's because of the Rona and COVID and the craziness and stuff. So to me, that's encouraging. I really don't like the whole idea of like this city has become like, it's like monopolized like a location for everybody, like, oh, you got to be there if you want to make it happen. I personally hate that. I also love my city. I love Miami. I wish I could be there more. Thankfully, like, music is popping down there more as far as writing and stuff, because Latin music is just doing better. So I can go down there now and work more. But before, it really wasn't happening down there. Everything was happening here. So it's like you do kind of feel forced to come out here. But I don't know. It goes both ways. I've had so many dope experiences here. There's so many amazing artists, writers, producers, just like creatives. So you're just constantly meeting people and you're able to collab and make things happen because people are power. Um, but also it kind of, I do wish people would cultivate like more in there. Like everybody was just more spread out. Maybe I just hate traffic. Maybe.
That could also be a thing.
You know, I think it's partially, honestly, sometimes it just feels like so many people in this city. But I think, I don't know, with COVID and stuff, it seems like it's spreading out a little bit. People are just going back to, because I think we're starting to realize, just like people in regular 9 to 5 world, that, you know, you can work from home.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you can just pick, like, you don't have to go to this office, this made up place where they tell you this is where you need to get your work done. And I feel like LA is kind of like that, the big office.
Yeah.
Office.
And then all over the country, there's different hubs of where music and creativity are popping, right? You've got Nashville, you've got even Florida, you got Orlando. Like there's different New York. There's different pockets where music is sort of being created and being sold. The purpose of generating this conversation today is really about the journey of the independent artist, but how does that also match up against the journey of somebody who is signed? And Zach, I want to ask you, sort of, when did you sort of know that you were going to take the indie artist route? And is that something that you plan to continue, or are you actually looking for label resources or to being signed under a label?
Well, at 18, I went on American Idol and got a bit of a taste of what I guess the big industry of music is like. And, you know, I guess I've found that being an independent artist, the journey could potentially is oftentimes a lot longer, and you have a lot more obstacles and walls and hurdles to get past. But if you build everything yourself, I think you'll appreciate it in the long run. And that's kind of the path I've taken, is the independent route, slow building everything, and you know, trying to build my own fan base. And it's very possible to do today because, I mean, the internet, you know, puts the power of the, you know, back into the hands of artists. So really taking advantage of everything. Social media platforms, YouTube is a big one. And I think that in this day and age, especially currently, like taking advantage of the internet and all of those resources that are available online really sets independent artists up in a great way.
Yeah. And Kat, what you mentioned earlier was that you had label experience and representation for 5 years, and now you're back on the hustle and thrive of an independent artist. Talk to us about that decision and sort of what are the biggest differences you see.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's experience is going to be different going into a major label and stuff. And I think I was just really young and I was like naive and I didn't really quite understand how it all worked. I really came from nothing to like getting signed and not even realizing what the gravity of that was. And I think that in a lot of ways being indie is so much doper because you just kind of do your thing. You're the boss. You make it happen. You put out whatever the frick you want and all that stuff. But also bread-wise, I mean, you know, it's like you're constantly investing in yourself, which is empowering, but sometimes you are stunted and, you know, productions can halt. Music videos need to wait. you can't release this thing because, you know, because you're dealing with your own money. So it can definitely be challenging, but you have to get creative. I mean, that's the fun part of it. And again, it's definitely a labor of love. So yeah, coming from a major, it was extremely stressful. I wasn't very happy. It was miserable. But being indie is a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
It is a lot of hard work. I'm not gonna
Were
lie.
there some things specifically that made you unhappy, that made you realize like this is not, being a label is not what it's cracked up to be?
For sure, it's like all the pressures of like all, you know, the big ups, you know, pressuring you to do this or sing this song or maybe sing like this or wear this or look like
Right.
this. Da, 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 da. And so it doesn't give you much self-confidence. Like your self-esteem is constantly being lowered because you feel like you just don't know yourself, or, you know, and maybe I came into the game with low self-esteem and that's my own issues from fucking freaking childhood or whatever. But yeah, it can be super challenging for a young person, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, were you gonna add something onto that?
What'd you say?
Were you gonna add something onto that thought?
Well, I'm like the total opposite. I've never even been inside of a label. The only time a label has reached out to me has been to buy a song, and I've respectfully declined because I felt the number was too low. So I agree with her because I've just heard so many horror stories on how a lot of my friends and colleagues that have been signed, they've been so unhappy. When I would think it would be a time when you would be the happiest, because the stress that I've had being an independent artist the full time of, like she said, finding the money, not being able to move when you want to move, from having that backing, it's like everything still has a price.
Yeah.
So I'm just, yeah.
I will say too, like if you come, like I think, like for all the young people watching this now, like if you really put the work in now and you're an indie artist for whatever 2, 5, 7 years, and then you partner up with a label, now you have all the leverage, you have all the knowledge, you've grinded, you've worked, you spent the bread, you've been your own boss. And so they can't come in kind of like trying to control the situation or feel like they own you type vibe, which is what they sometimes will do with younger artists for sure. And again, if you don't have the knowledge and you don't know, and it's like, oh, contract, sure, and you think your dreams are about to come true, it's definitely, you know, I think if you build up, like, and you find the right partner, now you have access to that bread. Like Emi was saying, it's, you know, it can be stressful if it's your own bread.
Yeah.
How you have that bread, but I digress. We're talking about indie life.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about, because it's important, what I want to share on this session is like, you all talk about the knowledge that you possess as independent artists, right? But you got that knowledge from somewhere. And so I want to talk about where that came from and what you're using to teach yourself to be able to not only know your value, but be able to, I mean, to your point, the number was too low. Well, where did you be able to quantify like the number related to your music?
Well, for me, I really got like the first shot that I tried for television, which was The Real, I got. And then the second shot that I got was actually me writing and singing for a commercial for JCPenney for a campaign. So that one song in that 1 year was on the same album that the label wanted to buy. So I was like, well, I've already made this much on one song from the same album, so your number is too low. It's just trial and error. Like, I've never had anyone show me the ropes. It's just been like, I will be blessed with amazing opportunities, and my lawyer. I've had the same lawyer for 9 years now. So it's just been he and I, so that at least on the business side, I'm taken care of. And then when it comes to everything else, it's me just really having faith and making sure that the deals go through. There's no blueprint for being an independent artist because everyone's journey is different, you know, so you kind of just have to figure it out as you go. And of course, stuff like this is great because we can now talk and meet and have dialogue about it. But,
Yes.
you know, in the beginning for me, there wasn't this. It was just me fucking up and correcting it. And excuse me, but yeah, it was just a lot of that. So.
I love that you all are correcting your language for our audience. I very much appreciate it. Something that's being mentioned, something that we've talked about, and even when I was doing research on all of your wonderful careers, by the way, and I can't wait to get into the content creation part of this conversation, is that you all have amazing teams behind you, right? Whether it be your manager, whether it be a lawyer giving you legal advice, someone who's helping you produce, or a drummer. And usually when you're going the label route, there is that support or a team that's suggested for you to use, or in some cases mandated. But I want to spend this time talking about how you all were able to identify your managers and how they're able to support you. And Sam, we'll start with you. I know that you were once managed and now you're managing yourself. So talk about that transition, but also sort of what are you looking for when you're trying to identify someone who can help manage and elevate your career?
Yeah, so my first manager was when I was getting out of that group. And I met him through Music World, which is owned by Matthew Knowles. So he was a student of his. And so I met the manager through him. He was young and he was like up and coming, but he talked that talk. And I was young, it sounds so good. And just going through the motions, you start to get a whiff of like, yo, this is not for me. This is not, his vision doesn't align with my vision. Where I see myself going, he didn't see myself going. What I wanted my brand to be, he didn't see that. So it was just like, excuse me, did his vision align with my vision? When it comes to just honestly with anyone on my team, whether it's marketing, whether it's someone assisting me, whether it's to the stylist, to someone doing my hair, to just people working on my website. If their vision doesn't align with my vision, or their walk doesn't align with my walk, like they're just not for me.
Yeah.
That's the way I dictate who is that's just the way I dictate the people who I interact with, and the people who I allow in my space. And that goes well with when it comes to me creating as well. So.
Yeah, and Zach, you not just, but in 2018 you signed a management deal. So talk about how your career has either evolved or taken a turn since you've made that decision to sign management. Hold on, you're muted.
There we go. Yeah, I was doing pretty much everything on my own, and being my own manager and handling business under a pseudonym and all that sort of stuff for a long time. And it was just because I hadn't found the right person. And I think Sam was right saying that you have to find somebody that's synced up with your vision. For me too, it was finding somebody that I felt like I could trust. That's a big thing. I think for anybody, like Sam said, on any part of your team, is finding somebody that believes in you, and also, again, somebody you can trust. I think that's really important. And luckily my manager found me during South by Southwest of 2018. And it was really just a conversation, sitting down, getting coffee, and about 30 minutes into the conversation, I just had the realization. I was like, this is the person that I want to represent me in meetings. I don't know, I had that moment where it clicked, and I was like, this is the person. It felt right, and it's been good ever since. And I somebody, I forget which one of you guys was talking about having a team built around you. I think that's super important as an indie artist. I think a lot of people start off feeling like they can do this all on their own, but I think it's very very important you do have some sort of team around you to help push you, tell you when you're messing up, tell you when you could be doing more. It's super important.
And something that we mentioned earlier, and Kat actually read this when I was studying up on you, which is it's an enjoyable opportunity for me to be able to read up on all of you. But I believe it was your first EP you self-financed, and we talk about as independent artists the multiple streams of revenue you have to be able to cover sort of all that you want to do. And from Kat and Emi, like I want to hear about sort of outside of music. How are you all bringing in streams of income so that you can fund your music? And Kat, we could start with you.
Yes, streams of income come from sound exchange. I'll just be getting checks from like old records that I've put out that are on Spotify and Apple and stuff. Sound exchange, I've gotten advances on publishing because I write as well. I think writing is like really powerful. So if you're writing for other artists on the side, you know, that's possible bread right there. And then yeah, kind of like what Zach said, like you need a lot of people helping you. You need like like favors, a lot of favors, you know what I'm saying? Like, I even did this last album, like a lot of it was just off the strength of producers that just like believed in me, loved what I was doing, blah, 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 and are just willing to have some type of partnership when it comes to like making music, as opposed to like paying a producer for a beat or whatever, partnering with people. And then that'll help you kind of like be able to kind of like put your projects together more easily, constantly collaborating with people and friends and favors. Yes, you're constantly like, as high as you're going, like you just always remember you're on top of the shoulders of the people that are helping you and all that stuff. But yeah, bread, writing on the side.
Yeah.
Well, for me, can I?
Yeah.
Okay. For me, I own a hairline called Hair Situations. It's an LLC as well, and I've owned it for 5 years. So everybody called me like a hustler because I'm just always like, my dad taught me you never put all of your eggs into one basket. So what I have always struggled with as an independent artist is whatever I focus on, that's what will thrive. So if I focus on music, I'll get a TV placement, I'll get a placement, and I'll make bread from that. If I focus on my hair business, I'll make thousands in sales in 1 month. But focusing on both of them at the same time, which is to piggyback on what Zach said, you have to have a team. Your tribe is your vibe. And so I've just been so blessed to have a village of people that really want to see me win. And it's like, no one cares what position they have to play as long as it's a win. And you have to surround yourself with people like that. Like my best friend has been perfectly fine with being my assistant. You know what I'm saying? And I was paying her to do that. And now she actually is training my assistants now, you know? So it's like having people that you trust and also knowing when that season is up. And you have to let them go because everyone has, you know, stuff that they have to do. So that's one way. And during the quarantine, I actually started a drive-in concert. So I made the drive-in concert free. And I've been able to get vendors. Like I have a marijuana sponsor. I have a bar sponsor. I have a food vendor, a food truck that comes. And so I've been able to monetize my brand and also monetize this event even in the middle of a quarantine. Now it's invite only, and of course, you know, we are safe and you have to wear a mask and all of that, but just always being innovative. Like you're always going to have to think of new ways because we've never been here before. So now it's like I'm able to perform live every week and I'm able to monetize off of my brand every week. So you just have to think, where is your bag, and then execute that.
Yeah, I want to transition this conversation because you made me think when you were talking about your drive-in concerts, just about ways that you all are not only building your fan bases but engaging them pre, during, and post COVID. And Kat, I want to talk to you first because you in the engagement of your fans is, I was reading on your website how you really just write these poetic, I feel like poetic sonnets to your fans, and they're almost like these personal journal entries, and they just seem so close to you. And so I wanna ask you, one, has that always been the way that you've engaged your fans, and sort of have you always been that open and direct with them?
This was like a new idea that we came up with like a few months ago. It was actually pre-quarantine to like do a blog and bring blogs back, and then just like have it like an open dialogue where yeah, it is easy to like just say whatever you're feeling, whatever's going on, and it's a great way to kind of have a one-sided conversation. It's kind of funny, but yeah, that we started that, and for me, it's actually really cathartic. Is that the word I'm looking for? And expressive in a way that isn't like musical, where sometimes music can feel like mathematical sometimes, where things need to fit right, and this can kind of just be stream of thought and nothing needs to freaking rhyme. So it's cool. And then just like constantly creating content for my fans to enjoy, you know, whether it's just music or visuals to go with the music or photo shoots. And then on the gram, I'll always just like post up stuff like ask a question, and then I love just talking to my friends like that through that. And then like in the DMs too, every now and again, just like when they're showing love, like just show love back and appreciate them for even airing about you, because that's crazy. And
Yeah, and creating that relationship.
yeah.
I would, yes, I love that. I feel like Zach, I don't want to miss the opportunity to tell the world that you're now on YouTube, and that is the way that you decided to engage your fans. So tell our audience about sort of that decision to, one, venture to YouTube, but in the unique way that you have.
Yeah, so you know, again, I got my start in music just completely live before I'd written any songs or knew anything about music. I was just playing on stages, and so that's been most of my career is just based in the live music scene, and Austin being the live music capital of the world. But when that all shut down because of COVID, it just, you know, we keep talking about the word reinvent keeps coming up. I had to figure out, you know, what to do. And you know, there's some live stream things that happen, but it really pushed me and my team to focus on figuring out new opportunities and new ventures. And for that, it was YouTube. That seemed like the most obvious and best choice for us. And so there's a YouTube series that comes out every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 2 p.m. Central. And it's called Amplified, where I talk about hit songs and the artists behind them. And it's something that we hope that will pick up traction pretty quickly. But that's kind of what we're doing with this time.
Right. And we talked earlier about how you and your team decided to create a bulk of content before releasing it and before sort of promoting it, so that when you gave your fans enough so that they can sort of chew on while you took time to create more, which I think is a brilliant concept and strategy. So kudos to you. I want to while we're on the line of talking about content creation, I want to talk about your music. And I want to start with Sam and Emi. And Sam, you released Lost in Love back in June during this quarantine. And it's gotten great reception, as in 15,000 listeners on Spotify. Talk and share with our audience sort of strategies in order to help promote and release that single. And what do you credit for it to being so successful? You're unmuted.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. No. Lost and Lost. I started working on that last summer, like early fall. So I'm into astrology. I love space. When it comes to like planets and stuff, I'm a nerd. I'm a nerd at heart anyway. So I like all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to creative, honestly, I really didn't have anything like, I knew what I wanted for my cover. So I already knew like how I wanted it to look. But as far as like the marketing aspect of it, because I'm very involved when it comes to marketing. But as far as that part, I had no idea what I wanted to do. But then COVID just kind of, I don't want to say, it forced me to. It forced me to go in my bag. It forced me to just reach in my bag and just be like, okay, dude, what do I need to do? Like, where do I take this next? So as you see, I bought this backdrop of these stars. At night, I have this thing that lights up my ceiling with stars. Like everything I do is my music. I walk in my music, I talk in my music. So like I talk about like astrology on my Instagram stories. So I intertwine everything I do with the theme of my music. So that's the way I promoted my music. Like I did like fun facts leading up to the release of my song, and tied it into the lyrics. So like, and then like fun facts of like what I was watching. So like Lost in Space is something on that Netflix. So I tied that into it. So I just found different ways to creatively how to tie my music with I knew what people were like tuning into at home, and something that would, grab people's minds, just because I know like Elon Musk is a huge thing right now. Like, he's really big on this SpaceX stuff, and I just knew like it's my love for it, and I knew everybody else's attention is at going that direction. So I pay attention to what's going on around me.
No, it's important to not only know your fans, but also sort of what is in mainstream, so that you can incorporate some of that. Kat, you also released a single three weeks ago and have been creating in this quarantine. So has your creative process changed now that we are stuck indoors, or do you feel like you're creating more or less?
It definitely stunted me. Like I had this whole plan. We were gonna like drop records, and then COVID, and then it took me like 3 months to drop a song. But I finally dropped my first one 4 weeks ago, and then today I'm dropping my second one. So in true indie artist fashion, go check it out. It drops at 9 p.m. It's called See Yo No Boy, and it's on YouTube. And I'm gonna do a live premiere with all my fans. So yeah, I mean, the plan is to basically keep dropping songs. We're shooting another video for the next single on Monday. The plan is to basically just keep dropping songs or videos for the next every 4 weeks, and just keep it consistent and keep content rolling out. Like the album is already done, it's mixed, it's mastered. So like, it's really just about me now, like putting the visuals together, dropping that, and making sure that we do it on time and keep feeding the fans. And yeah.
And Zach, you released Can't Stop Running in June, and then also followed it up with a music video. Talk to us about the differences when you're creating a music video and how you've taken this unique approach, because it's really just you in a single shot. And so talk to us about that decision to be creative, so that you're not only engaging your fans, but in getting your message across through your video, but also sort of putting out what's out there where you think is going to be received well.
Yeah, that was an interesting process. I started shooting just like these random music video things on my, just using an iPhone and a stabilizer, the little handheld one you can buy on Amazon. And it was getting pretty good reactions from people on Facebook and different things. And quarantine hit again, and we had plans to shoot a music video for not just Can't Stop Running, but all the songs on the new EP. And we just decided to do it ourselves. And I think, like I keep referring back to Sam, but I think we both have a mutual interest in kind of space, and I don't know, maybe I like the desert a lot, and it feels like Mars out there. And that's kind of what we're trying to accomplish with the music video, is make it feel just like, I don't know, like, where the heck is this guy? But as far as messaging goes, honestly, I really don't know what kind of message we were trying to portray with that video. It just looked cool. But I do think that people, there's a lot of opportunities for people to get things, to do things themselves. And you're probably capable of like doing a lot more on your own than you think. And that Can't Stop Running music video is proof of that.
I want to talk about, you all have been busy during quarantine, right? And Kat, I love that you brought up this live performance that's going on, because in the virtual performance space, what are some tips and tricks and advice that you can give to our audience to engage fans while still being virtual?
Were you asking me that?
Yes, I was.
Okay.
I was asking you.
Because I know Emi's got the drive-ins, which is dope.
Yeah, I know. So for both of you, let's start with you, Kat, and then Emi, I want to hear from you.
Oh, you're asking about the virtual.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. The virtual is weird. I mean, yeah, I got invited to go to Melody VR, which they're a company that what they would do is they take these 360 cameras, and for these live performances in front of audiences pre-COVID, they would film these performances, and then you at home can put on your virtual eye set and you could feel like you're there. So they pivoted because they knew live out, audience performance is probably halted for now. So they pivoted and made it like a studio thing. So they have like all these like TVs around you. You can put up your live visuals for your songs. And now you're singing in a studio alone in front of these 360 cameras. And now people at home can watch you alone in a room when you're just singing. And you have to do this set and just like kind of go as if you were doing it in front of an audience. So I did it for Music Cares. I did it for Melody VR. It's definitely a little weird at first, but like, I mean, look, it's just like we're all talking about here. It's like you just got to roll with the punches. You got to get used to it. You got to figure out what the next thing is, and you got to stay creative. And it is what it is. It's not that bad. It's kind of cool. You go to a studio, you do a 6-song set, and that's what it is for now.
Yeah. I mean, I want to talk to you about two things. One, you did a live performance with Play for Change, where you were performing in one space, and then you had your band performing in another space. Then they were social distancing. So talk to us about how it was different to, usually when an artist is performing, they're not only getting energy from their band who's on stage, but also their fans. So how was that different, not having your band behind you, but having them in a whole different room?
Well, we came up with that concept, like you said, due to COVID, and also I have like a very powerful voice. Like some singers sing low, but I am like a belter. So there was feedback because of my voice, and my drummer's Mike Stanley, who's my producer. So they were like, well, you got to go outside. The founders of Playing for Change actually came to one of the drive-ins, and so they sent their camera crew to set up just how we set that up. So it's really good for me because it's making me fall in love with music all over again, because you're singing blind. The music is behind you. So it's really teaching you how to really quarterback and really take control of your show, of your stage. So we were able to raise money for Playing for Change, and that was awesome. And what was your other question?
And then also with the drive-ins, people are not only in their cars, but I see that some people are also social distancing, but not in a car. How are you engaging with your fans in that type of setting?
In that type of setting, it is literally magic. It's literally like, we started off going live on Instagram. So literally the first week of quarantine, we're up on 4 months. So every week we've provided, I just like to call myself like a good vibes curator. I like to curate good vibes. And so we started off just me singing outside, and like strangers just stopping and being like, who is this girl singing, you know? And so to kind of control that, we started doing 30 invites a week. And yeah, it's just, it's a way for us to like have little pockets of joy during this time. And so every week, I'm singing to them and they're singing to me too. I'm from the South. I come from the church, so we call it like a little soul choir. And we bring Memphis to LA, and we always sing Still in Love by Al Green just to spread love, which is what the world needs right now. And so I'm always like responding to people. I'm always, you know, just talking to people, and we're always singing together because music is the one thing that connects us. So that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, I want to end our conversation today really talking about some of the technical pieces of all of your careers and giving advice to our audience. But before we go into that, I mean, we were talking about everyone's work that they've just put out or that they've been excited about, and I want to talk about your single "Say My Name" with Brandon Jenner. And because it's so relevant and timely with everything that's going on with George Floyd and sort of all the chaos and the police brutality. Brandon Jenner wrote this song and that relationship that you all had and how it came about. I just want you to share it with our audience.
Yes, like we literally had a power outage here. That's why.
Oh wow!
So I was like, okay, Mercury's clearly in retrograde, whatever. But so Brandon Jenner, he's been a friend. We've been friends for a couple of years now. I write as well, so I've just been really in the studio writing with him. These past few years, like I'll go in and I'll vocal arrange or vocal produce or lay some backgrounds, write some just we've had that type of relationship. So when he called me, he just asked me to hear the song. Because, you know, he's a white guy. And for those types of words to come from a white man, he just wanted to make sure that it wasn't offensive and that he was moving in the right way. And so when I heard the song, I started crying personally because I feel for years, we as Black people have been speaking and not being heard, you know. We've been writing songs all the way from back to Marvin Gaye. What's going on? Like artists have been talking about social injustice and police brutality for years and we've not been heard. So I felt like I had to let him be an ally. I had to let him help me and amplify my voice, being a Black woman. And so then he asked me to sing on the song. And it's just literally taken a life of its own. Like the amount of support and love that we have gotten and received has just been amazing. We've been able to spark uncomfortable conversations between white and Black people, because one thing that I've learned in this whole process is a lot of white people don't know what to say. They don't want to put their foot in their mouth. They don't want to be offensive. So them not saying nothing is kind of like a protective mechanism for them. So what I've also had to learn to bridge that gap is, as a Black woman, to create a safe space for them to feel like that they can say the wrong thing and we can correct that in love. So just really, it's been so, I've never talked about race so much. I've never felt like I've had to have and curate open spaces for white people to feel comfortable enough in to learn about our culture and our history. So I think as a Black woman, I have a responsibility to do that because it's our history. So who better to tell you than me? So through that, we have raised over $20,000 for Playing for Change. Color of Change. And we just did Good Morning Australia. We did an interview with people. Like, we literally are spreading a message of love, and all of the money is going to Color of Change, which is a foundation that I personally chose. And he has literally been so selfless in this. And his whole thing is he just wants the world to look at all of us as humans, you know, for us to all take color, take whatever out of it, take status out of it. And we need to look at each other and address each other as humans and love on one another. And that's the only way this shit is going to change. So he and I are being the change. So we 10 toes down. anything, man.
Yes, I love it. I love it. All right, so we're coming to a close, and I want to ask you all, is there a moment in your career that you passed up on, you wish you hadn't, or something that you wish you handled differently now that you look back at it? And Zach, I wanna start with you.
Definitely something that I always think back to is my time on American Idol. Um, you know, those shows are very much shows, and they're curated, and you know, the people oftentimes on those shows are um, it's very curated, and they a lot of times push you to get certain responses to make, you know, these to make the show exciting, because I mean, people want to tune in and be entertained. And so a big thing for me, learning lesson. I'll get really honest and specific about a specific situation. We were talking or doing our interviews, and I remember I did my interview, and they were pushing me to like beef up my answer and make it sound more just exaggerated, and I did it, and it really wasn't how I felt. And I did it to play the game so I could continue on the show. The next person came on, and she wasn't having it. She like totally just, you know, used some choice words with the cameraman, and said what she wanted to say, but she knew she was, and she like stayed true to herself. And I was like, my thought then was like, that was a big mistake. Like if you want to be here, you got to, you know, play the game. And 2 weeks later, our time both ended. Our time on the show both ended at the same time, and I just had the realization, like, wow, like she, you know, we both are leaving the show again in the exact same day. We're in the exact same spot, and the only difference was she stayed true to who she was, and I didn't. And like that was a big learning lesson to me. Like, never sacrifice, you know, your values or who you are for an opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Kat, a moment in your career that you, if you could go back, you'd change, or something that you learned from it?
Definitely being signed. I feel like I would just like, if I just had more knowledge, I would have handled the situation so differently. But yeah, I was just young, naive, you know, misled, yada yada. Didn't have all the tools that I needed to, like, you know, be able to kind of stand up to a big major
Yeah.
system like that, where you are going to be like pushed around and tested of your own true confidence and self-esteem, yada yada. So
Are there, when you talk about knowledge, are there sources that young artists can use now to be more equipped to handle the
I
conversations with
think
the
that,
label?
yeah, I think that young people like now and young artists coming up are like extremely equipped. I think that the labels know that now, because it was a little different me coming up. Like I didn't even, like the gram had was kind of starting, but it wasn't like what it is now, where it's this ginormous platform. Like all that stuff is different now. So, you know, I think young people today, thankfully, they can do it on their own, truly. Just like we all, I mean, we all can currently, but everybody that is coming into this game with no knowledge at all, just know that everything is in your hands. The internet is like literally
Right.
just the world library. So
Yeah, thank you. Sam, same question. A moment in your career that if you can go back, you change, or you wish you would handle differently?
I'm with Zach. Just being able to use my voice more, standing my ground more, being in the rooms that I've been in, and understanding when to say no, when to say yes. But also, like, I've been in rooms, writing and stuff for different artists, when I was afraid to be vulnerable when it came to my craft. And I was afraid to show that vulnerability when I was writing. And I wish I would have allowed that to show more because I'm now with my EP coming out and the people I've let hear my EP, they're like, bro, where was this 5 years ago? And I was like, listen, it wasn't time, or, I just wasn't mature. So those are just the two things I would have changed or,
Yeah. Thank you. I mean, last but not least, closest out, a moment that you wish that you learned from, or that if you can go back, you change some things.
For me, the biggest thing that I wish that I would have done is Issa Rae said something so powerful, and I was like, dang, too little, too late. She said that you should network across and not try to network up. You should network across, network with people that you admire, that are like on your level, and see how you guys can build together. For me, because I wrote a song for a commercial, which there's a lot of money for writing in television and film, and that's what I do. So I've never really had to struggle as an independent artist. I've always just been able to make it happen, but I have wasted so much money putting it in places where people just really said they were going to help me and they end up not doing anything. So looking back on it, I would have not did that. I would have networked across and not tried to go to people that just saw me as being like, oh, she gonna pay me money. You know what I'm saying? Right. I would have really done my research and saw that I could have did a lot of shit on a lot of stuff on my own and not wasted so much money. So just, utilizing the people that you have around you and you guys building together instead of you trying to go to people that's really looking down on you anyway, so they're not really trying to mess with you. So you shouldn't. Just network across and build with your tribe. That
is a great way to end today's conversation. I want to thank you all so much for being here and for sharing your insights and advice as independent artists. For our audience participating today, remember that there'll be a survey when you close out, so we encourage you to fill it out. We'll be sharing all of your social and all links to your music to our participants who attended today. And then tomorrow, Music Forward has a career development workshop on crowdfunding 101. So participants who are looking to fund their projects or are independent artists can attend that and learn more ways. And then next week's initial session will be on technology and music, which I'm excited to host and moderate. So again, thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And with that, good luck. And I hope to see you all in person one day soon. All right, thank you, everyone.